Hi, welcome back to Renee with Real Estate.
Hello.
Hope everyone's doing well.
Yes.
Renee, how are you?
Hopefully they're all better than I was this last week.
Right?
The flu took me down and then I brought myself back. Yeah,
I know, right? It took a few days.
Oh, I was just saying, it's funny how when you get sick, it's like you literally come back to life. Like,
Yeah. Oh, you were fully out.
Oh, you saw it. I said,
out.
talk to him, like, don't come in. He's like, it's okay, I'm biotic.
Fully.
But we're good, and we're back.
Yeah.
And so what's also fun about getting sick, it's kind of almost like traveling. It's at least traveling and having a good time, but you get back and you're like way behind.
Right.
Like,
What did I miss?
so it's already behind from Vegas, and now I'm
Oh yeah, so you fully came back from that.
not even fully, but like, and it lost another week, and I'm like, okay, let's catch up. So we're gonna play catch up this weekend.
That's right. So we're gonna talk about second homes.
Oh, because we have goals for
We
this.
do. This has been a great magazine. I've gotten so many great tips out of this.
Realtors, if you don't
There it is,
have this
fabulous.
magazine, the National Association of Realtors pushes this out, and I don't know why I get it delivered to my house, but I do, and I keep bringing it to Chad.
You know, and it's got so much. It's got so many good
Like, hey,
things. in it,
Chad, some ideas
so
for
I
our
love it.
podcast.
So this was an interesting read, and I found this to be very, very curious. So we're going to talk about it. So the newest thing with buying a home, obviously in particular a second home, vacation home, is co-ownership. Have you heard of this?
Well, okay, so when you say that, I think of timeshares.
Right, which I knew was what you were going to say.
I don't know, because you think of co-ownership, that was the whole push of a timeshare,
Yeah.
because when you think of a second home, how often are you going to be in the second home, right? Like,
Exactly.
it's your second home. So it's kind of the place that you would maybe summer. Like now I think of, like I've been watching Gilmore Girls. So when I was sick this last week, I had Gilmore Girls on repeat.
Right.
So, which I love that show. It's, Connecticut. I love that area.
Oh,
It's so
perfect.
beautiful.
Love it.
Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
And that's what they were talking about. They were talking about they had this mansion in my house in New Haven.
Oh.
And they're like, oh, we should get our summer home in Martha's Vineyard. I was like, yes, you should.
Goals.
I was like, so should I. But that, like, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of, there's a certain time and class that would kind of close up a house
Right.
seasonally and go to the other house.
Yeah.
But, they had superfluous amounts of money with which to, like,
Right?
keep both, because no matter what, someone's got to dust and clean and taxes, like the list of things financially involved.
Right.
You can see why, if you're not in that echelon, it's financially more feasible to team up with somebody and be like, hey, we'll trade off, or kind of like plane shares. Like
Well, that's
like
true.
I shouldn't say nobody owns a plane, but I know a lot of businessmen that own planes with people because they're not
Right.
flying every single day.
Yeah.
And a plane to buy the plane, own the plane, pay a pilot, pay the la la la. If you divided it up and then you just work each other's schedule, it's more feasible to own a plane than to
Right.
just own a plane.
No,
So-
absolutely. Well, okay, so this is not timeshares.
Good.
After all of that, this is not timeshares.
Good, because I don't want to
So-
sit down and hear a speech that's going to give me $100 when I'm done. too.
Right? Well, because timeshares sell time and are essentially long-term leases.
Yeah.
You don't own
You don't own
anything.
it.
You don't own
But you
anything.
still have, you own the share.
You own the share of it, but at the end of the
Because you have to
day,
sell the share if you want it out.
right? But at the end of the day, it's
You
not
don't
the
own
same.
that property.
Yeah, you don't own that
No.
property.
That's why it's
Yeah. So like you're literally
better
wasting that time.
to do a home share.
Exactly.
So
So that's what this is.
Okay.
So the co-ownership is kind of the new thing because instead of buying the whole home, which is what a lot of people cannot do at this point, so by purchasing just 1/8 or 1/4 equity share of their home, it lessens their costs and splits ownership responsibilities with the other people. So it's kind of the same. It's the same idea as a timeshare. You're still getting a certain amount of time in this home, but you're splitting up the cost. But at the end of the day, you own a portion of this house.
The difference in the timeshare is when you sell your timeshare, you just sell off your responsibility.
Right.
You don't get any money back out of it. That's just spent money.
So by co-ownership, you're actually building it.
You actually have potential for equity, kind of like an estate. Like, so if somebody passed away and there were 5 heirs in this home, when the 5 heirs go to sell, the money is divided by 5.
Right.
That's their share. So it's a similar principle.
Oh, exactly.
I could see how that could get tricky too.
Well, yeah, and so what they're saying is obviously the whole thing is that, well, because it's kind of like, it's also kind of promoting a couple different companies
Oh,
that specialize in this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So because they said that real estate pros are a critical part of fractional ownership transaction. Which
Fractional ownership.
So, because like you
Because
were
you own a
saying,
fraction.
you own a fraction of it,
Yeah.
and again, it's, you know, we know what the contracts are like for one person in a home.
I just
So
can't
imagine
imagine.
having 4 transactions being involved in the purchase of this one home. And all the ins and outs of everything.
No,
that
because
you do
then what if
to
somebody
make that
doesn't pay their share, or like, I can see where this could get messy.
Yeah, so what it's looking like is that every quarter is its own,
Their dues
its own contract. So like you are like if the home were $5 million and your portion of it was $699, like your contract is for that $699. So I think what would end up happening is if you defaulted, that share would be up for grabs, or that quarter of the house would be up for grabs.
Kind of like a foreclosure.
Like a foreclosure.
You would get
So-
nothing back out of it.
So kind of like a duplex or like a condominium complex. Like if you don't pay yours, you kind of lose that portion of it. So that one would be part of the foreclosure, and then someone could buy that quarter of it.
How are they picking which houses go into this?
What did they say? It was something like there's actually like people that so these companies actually buy these homes.
Got it.
So these companies are the listing agents essentially.
Got it.
So they're going out and buying these homes, and then they're
The
splitting
million
it
dollar
up.
homes.
Yeah. So they're kind of like finding homes that would make sense. It'd be like vacation homes.
Yeah,
or-
and
you know,
vacation like Scottsdale, Arizona, or like
Yeah.
places where you'd want to have a high poshy place.
Right. And ones that obviously the people cannot necessarily afford outright on their own, but if you split it up by 4 times, obviously the potential is going to be there. Because again, not everyone's going to want to be there all the time.
That's just it though.
So-
Because you think we were joking earlier about having where we would have our 10 homes, right? Chad and I'm like, I know how much it took me to travel to I've only been to 5 cities this year, 6 cities this year, and I'm like. So like you think even if you had 10, you're not going to all 10 every year.
No.
It'd just be impossible. So it's more like they exist for this year and the next year, and so you can see why sometimes even they don't even fool with the purchase of property and just go stay in hotels because it's just
Right.
every 2 years we're in Paris, and so this is our hotel or whatever. You just drop in, spend your money, leave. The only difference is that you don't have equity if you operate
Right.
that way.
So this is all like an investment
An
property.
equity building.
Kind of like that, kind of like
option.
you're building for the future, for
Huh.
retirement. Because they're saying that 89% of its buyers are buying the second home for the first time, showing that co-ownership is opening up possibilities for a whole segment of new purchasers that were able. So there's a whole market now that you could be getting because of this co-ownership being a thing now.
Okay, so I'm
So-
a little OCD, and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, okay, so, because this is one of the reasons why, if I ever had like an Airbnb or a VRBO, I would never stay there. Because I know I'm saying this, and it's true of every hotel I've ever stayed, like I get that, right? But I expect a hotel to be the place that many people have stayed. You know what I'm saying? Like I expect that. But like something that I'm calling a home or a second home or like something that's mine, I'm not expecting many other people to be using my things in my space. Like I would require some mental reconfiguration for me to like, because it's not like I'm bringing my own bed every time, right? Like,
Right.
so this is like in this situation, if it's a second home and it's a shared second home, the word home for me is like, but it's mine. So then when I show up and the furniture is dinged or this is that and the other, because then I'll be like, because that's irritating. That's like you have roommates, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like you have roommates.
Well, yeah, so I mean, I kind of think that that's probably the case, is that the home would be big enough that you'd be able to section off. Like everyone would essentially have their own room that's not touched, you have a lock on it. That would be your room when you go to the house. Obviously, there would be the shared
You
space.
see where I'm going with that? Yeah, I don't know, but
then
that's still like the living room,
Yeah.
the kitchen.
So a lot of what they're saying too is that it ends up that it's a lot of families and friends.
So it's almost
So-
like they're treating it like an Airbnb.
Yeah.
I already told you though, I don't have Airbnbs because I couldn't stay with them.
But if you have like 4, or if you have like 3 friends and you all want to go in together on like a certain home, that's what
like
I'm
you
saying.
and I said.
Right,
Yeah,
so
no,
like,
no,
you know-
it feels less intrusive.
Right.
No.
So it's like if you have friends, we're like, hey, let's all invest in this one property. We can all be co-owners.
Oh, and that kind
So-
of fits like the pandemic idea
Yeah.
of, you know, like when the pandemic hit, everybody was like, we all want to be under one roof. So like,
Right.
it may not even be friends. Like if you've got a big family, all the siblings buy into a second
Oh,
home.
exactly.
Like, so then it turns into the place that
That could be
everybody.
like the vacation.
Like
of the
Kara, I have a
yeah.
friend, her family goes to Smithville like 1 week of every summer.
Yeah.
You know, they rent this place out for who knows how much money.
Well, yeah, and that's what they said, is that you can also, it gives you the ability to rent out any days that aren't being used.
If you wanted the
So
money.
if you wanted to kind of get some of that back. So, which is why I feel like it really would work best if it was like friends or family, because then everybody can coordinate their calendars and like, hey, all right, so it's not
Look at
gonna be
that
used.
here. Yeah,
It's
like
not gonna be used these days, let's make some money back.
January is,
Yeah.
let's get
Turn it
our.
into like a side hustle, if you will.
Again, they're coming in and using your stuff.
I know. I mean, I think I would only be
I'm
comfortable
so
doing it.
OCD.
I think I would only be comfortable in doing it with friends that I was really close with.
Oh, like coming to Airbnb.
Yeah.
Like, so I think, and I've seen that. Like, I have friends that have second homes, and they're like, hey, does anyone we know want to rent this out for a vacation? You know what I'm saying? Like, so they pitch it to their circle of friends, but
Right?
I don't know. I understand why that class I was referring to with Martha's Vineyard
Yeah.
shuts up a house, goes to
Right.
great shows, then because here's the thing, like, I love to come home, so what Chad will watch Joshua when I travel, and I love coming home, and it's like, everything's where it's supposed to be, like, we'll go nuts if I came back,
Oh,
like,
I would go crazy. I would not have.
and
I
I
would
would
not
start my
handle that
entire vacation off on the wrong foot, because stuff is everywhere, like, that it wasn't supposed to be,
well.
and then I'd be like, this is just like a hotel,
Yeah. Right.
which I expect, I don't know, that we'd have to change the word from home to something else, because I wouldn't be able, a second home to me is like another place with my creature comforts.
Right.
And if they're my creature comforts, I want to share them. Yeah, isn't that funny?
No,
But
I
I-
totally get that.
But I think too, like when you look at the way the market's trending and the rates are trending, and you know, if you think about people that want to invest in a second home and it's not financially possible to have
Right.
a full to take on a full second home expense, that's a valuable option.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
because
absolutely.
they would be able to. We should drop the links for those if anyone's watching and wants to investigate a second home.
Yeah, so second share is the big one that
It's called second share.
it's called second share.
So that sounds like timeshare.
Right,
Second share.
second
Okay,
share.
So that my brain's going into that space now. I'm like, okay.
Oh, exactly. So the way that it works is buyers can finance up to 70% of their purchase. So, which is kind of how that,
So they only got of their fraction,
of their fraction.
finance 70% of their fraction.
So they have to, so it's 30%
30%
down.
down.
Yeah, which is typical for
Second home.
Second home.
Second homes can be, well, here,
like investment.
20%.
properties, yeah.
It's usually 20, so it's a little higher. But probably because they want you to have more skin in the game because you're
Well, they
with
do.
other people.
Yeah, so they want.
It's not just your neck on the line.
Well, exactly, like yours.
It's
But I
not
mean,
your
it's-
financial neck on the line.
yeah, but so I just think, you know, there's a lot there, but from the realtor side, like, how do you see that playing out? If this actually becomes a big thing, like,
Well, that's what I was gonna say. They wouldn't use us for that, would they? Because it seems like it's a company that's going to buy.
so if they're the listing agent,
Whoever the company's using as their buyer's agent would be the one to purchase the property probably from a single owner. And then they're using that company to sell, you know, these shares.
yeah,
So it's kind of like a timeshare situation where like you could have condos in a timeshare or townhouses in a timeshare. They're never hitting the market because they're part of the, does that make sense? Like
no,
I
that
think,
makes sense.
I think it's probably part of the second share umbrella.
Yeah,
So it would never hit a proper market because it's not being sold. There's no option for it. You can't hit the market if it's not available to everyone.
right. Well, because it says agents collect commission when representing each individual buyer in a co-ownership agreement.
Yeah, but is it, so it's kind of like, so you know timeshares.
Right.
They have agents that sell the timeshares and get commission from.
Oh, so maybe like they're only working.
They
on-
might have their own second share agents that are, so like you could become a second share agent where
Right.
you are selling these vacation, second home things and collecting commission off of it. I don't see it being popular in Lynchburg.
No.
So where
no.
we are, I just don't think
I don't
people are going to
either.
be like coming for second homes in Lynchburg. Like we're kind of where you live, then you get a second home somewhere else.
Right.
So agents in like other areas like LA and Texas, big Texas cities and Florida and like New York, like you probably have the opportunity to team up with something like this and sell the baby.
Yeah. No,
Is
absolutely.
it possible? It's possible.
No, I think that would be possible.
It's possible.
So yeah, I just think it's
That's
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's,
so it's
look
like-
at you finding new stuff that we hadn't even.
Right?
Yeah, that's.
And I feel like that would be the same thing with the plane, though. I feel like it would be more of that co-ownership situation where you're buying a portion of the plane, essentially.
So you like my comparison because
Yeah.
I remember I had a boyfriend once who was a pilot and he flew for business owners because as a pilot he worked for multiple owners because you can't just
Right.
usually fly for one.
Yeah.
And they would all like he only had a handful of planes because they all kind of shared. Like there was a jet and there's a couple of people that owned the jet and there was they
Mhm.
all and they would have different trips with it depending on just like
Right.
you said they were organized their calendars.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get that far in if they organized it on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, but like the plane was used for work and then he would have to fly it in the interim because planes have to keep so much time in the air. He would just take it out on trips to keep it the hours it needed logged.
Yeah.
So that would be like this house, right? Like if you're not using it, you could use it to have other people come and stay.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I had a friend that was a pilot who actually approached me about buying a plane. So he's like, hey, I'm looking at this plane. I obviously can't afford it by myself. Do you want to? It was going to be the two of us plus a couple others, and we were going to go together and buy this
Like a
plane.
little Cessna, like
Yeah,
thing.
and so just something that we could go back and forth. And he said I would fly, you just have to pay for gas. So I was like, so it was gonna be that similar situation,
Timeshare for a plane.
which makes sense though. I was like, well, yeah, like,
they're
you're not
very
using it all, the
So
time, so
expensive.
why would you not just have that as another investment? Be like, yes, I own a portion of the plane. How cool would that be?
Well, and if you're a business
So-
owner, that's a tax write-off.
Right.
Because you can fly for work.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
right
just
after,
really
yeah.
cool. So
fascinating.
Yeah,
Things
I love
to
it.
think about.
yeah, are you ready?
Fun fact Friday, fun fact Friday.
This is crazy. Well done, elderly couple.
What
All
did
right.
they do?
So when Apple was building a new data server in North Carolina, they paid one elderly couple $1.7 million for an acre of land. The couple purchased this land 34 years prior for $6,000.
How could they possibly know big tech was gonna?
I mean, absolutely no idea.
This
It
is
was
like
just-
lottery stuff. Like this
it
is the
was
part where
totally
you
lottery.
realize that, there's no way to predict.
No way at all. It's like, how cool is that though? Just got their retirement.
Cha-ching.
And I mean, being that it was an acre of land, I can't imagine like,
Just an acre.
yeah, like that's crazy. They could go anywhere.
$6K. That's what an acre would be here now.
Right, exactly. Sounds like
I don't think taxes are here, though. Don't get excited.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next week.
Cheers.